All right, guys, next one. Let's see, we've got a hypotenuse of 16. We've got an angle of 45. As soon as we see that angle of 45, we know that the adjacent and the opposite are going to be the same. So let's see if we can find out all these values. Now, for the opposite, we know that that's equal to the sine of the angle times, times the hypotenuse. Why do we know that? Well, if we look at this relationship with sine, we know that sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So if we're looking for the opposite, that's the sine of the angle times our hypotenuse. So in that case, we've got sine of 45 degrees times our hypotenuse of 16. And we'll drop it into the calculator and we'll see if we can find the answer here. So let's see, we need the sine of 45. So let's clear all this out of here. So how are we going to do this? We'll do sine of 45. Okay, so some calculators that you're using, you have to do 45 and then hit sine. With my calculator, I can do sine. I put this in brackets, and then I'm going to multiply that by 16. And that gives me 13.61. Okay, so I just said the answer was 13.61, right? But that's mess because we know that the answer is 11.31. So looking at my calculator, some of your calculators will have gremlins. So as soon as you put your calculator into your bag, it will change it to radians. So I'm going to change mine back to degrees here. Okay, so I'm on to degrees now. And now I can get out of here. So now let's see if this works now. Sine of 45, close brackets, times 16. Come on. 11.31. Okay, so be careful because if you don't have it in degrees, then you're going to get messed up values, right? Guaranteed you're going to be in radians, and then you'll be halfway through the test, and you look over the person beside you, and you're like, what is going on? I'm not getting the same answers as the dude beside me. So as soon as you start your test, or as soon as we start any of these exercises, just make sure that your calculator is in degrees. Okay, so this guy right here is going to be 11.31. Okay, let's do the next one. The next one for the adjacent is going to be cos of the angle times the hypotenuse. Okay, so in this case, we're going to do cos of 45 degrees times 16. And with confidence, we know that that answer is going to be 11.31. But let's just use the calculator and just double check here. So let's get rid of all this noise here. So we're going to do the cos of 45 degrees. Okay, we're going to multiply that by 16. Ah, yes, 11.31. Now the third decimal place is a 3, so we'll keep this as a 1. We won't round up. Excellent. Okay, let's take on number 2. Number 2 has a hypotenuse of 100, has an angle of 30 degrees, and we're looking for both the opposite and the adjacent. And again, we know that if we are trying to find the opposite, then we've got sine, right? So sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. And if we're looking for the adjacent, well, we know we can use cos. Cos is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay, so anytime we're looking for the x component or the opposite, then we're doing sine of the angle. So in this case, sine of 30 degrees times our hypotenuse. All right, so then our hypotenuse is 100. So let's drop that into the calculator now that we're on degrees. So we're doing the sine of 30 degrees, and we're multiplying that by 100. And that gives us 50. Okay, so the opposite here is 50. The adjacent is going to be cos of the angle, so cos of 30 degrees come on, Pete, times our hypotenuse. Okay, and let's see. We've got, let's get rid of this guy. So we've got the cos of 30 degrees times 100. And that gives us 86.6. We'll do 80.6.60 because this one is a 2, so we won't round up. Beauty. At that point, you can use Pythagoras. So you can do 50 squared plus 86.6 squared square root, and you should find that there's a value that's very close to 100. Right on. Let's do number 3, guys. Number 3 has the adjacent is 30. The opposite is 40. We're looking for the hypotenuse, and we're looking for the angle. I haven't really left enough room in order to find or put in Pythagoras there. So let's do that up here. Our hypotenuse is going to be equal to the square root of our adjacent squared, which is 30, plus our hypotenuse, our opposite squared, sorry. Cruise control today. And you may need to make use of double brackets. Okay, so let's use a calculator here. So what do we got? We got second function square root for my calculator. I'm going to do double brackets. I got 30 squared plus 40 squared, close brackets, equals 50. Well, it better be 50 because that's a 3, 4, 5 triangle, right? So 3, 4, 5 relationship. Excellent. Now we need to find the angle. Well, we've used sine and cos. Let's use tan in order to find this angle. Okay, so here we're going to say that this guy is equal to the inverse relationship of the opposite over the adjacent. Right, we found this guy to be 50. Why are we using that? Well, let's look at the tan ratio. Tan of that angle is the ratio of the opposite over the adjacent. So if we're looking for the angle, we're going to do the inverse tan function of that same ratio. Holy, what's going on with the pen today? Okay, and our opposite is what? 40. The adjacent is 30. Okay, so from class, we know that that angle is going to be 53.13. It's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. But let's see if we can figure that out. So we're doing tan, so we're doing second function, tan, because I want to make use of this guy above the tan. So inverse tan function, and we're doing the opposite divided by the adjacent. Then we'll close brackets. 53.13, come on, buddy. Excellent, 53.13 degrees. Beauty. Come on, the pen's not working today. Come on. Gremlins. Excellent. Okay, let's go down and do the fourth one because we found the angle there and we found the hypotenuse. So last one here, guys. We got an angle of a steep angle of 75. So we'll find that the adjacent is small, right? We got a large opposite here. So let's drop that in there. That's our opposite value. And we're looking for the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is going to be equal to the opposite over, can't win today. Okay, so let's rock through this one. The hypotenuse is equal to the opposite over the sine of the angle. So hypotenuse is equal to the opposite over the sine of the angle there. Our opposite is what, 175? Our angle is a steep 75 degrees. And so the hypotenuse is, let's see. We got 175 divided by sine of 75 degrees, close brackets, gives us 181.17. Third decimal place there is a 3, so we'll use that as 181.17. Okay, now we got two sides of the triangle. We could use Pythagoras, but let's keep using the values that were given, the 75 and the 175. So if we're looking for the adjacent, and we have the opposite, then we're going to have to make use of tan. So the adjacent is going to be equal to the opposite over tan. Oh my good gracious. Opposite over tan of the angle, so that's going to be equal to 175 over tan of 75. And so let's finish this guy off for the adjacent, for the last one on this page. So we have 175 divided by tan of 75 degrees, close brackets, equals 46.89. Right on. Excellent. All right, guys. Thanks for your patience. Sorry for the issues with the computer. Pause it here, and we'll go on to the third video. And the third video is just going to keep going with the entire trig extra questions.